When Prince died in 2016, the world mourned a legend. But what investigators uncovered in the wake of his death revealed his most disturbing secret. Prince broke every rule in the pop star playbook. He wrote, produced, and performed like no one else. He didn't chase the macho image, but women still chased him. And while his charm was front and center, the dark truth he kept hidden would only come to light after it was far too late. Of all the people in show business, you'd expect pop phenomenon Prince to have used a stage name. But nope. He was born Prince Rogers Nelson on June 7, 1958 in Minneapolis. But the name Prince did come from showbiz. Prince's parents were musicians and Dad used Prince Rogers as his stage name. But it would be the younger Prince who would take the name to fame and fortune. When he was just 7 years old, Prince sidled up to his dad's piano and didn't just annoyingly pound on the keys like most kids at that age. Prince actually wrote a song that he called Funk Machine. Clearly, Prince was already something special, but life was about to throw him a curveball. Prince's parents got a divorce when Prince was just 10 years old. Luckily, his stepdad also liked music, and he took Prince to see James Brown in concert. For the next few years, Prince flip-flopped between living with his dad and with his mom and stepdad, until one day he had nowhere to go. While Prince's dad did buy Prince his first guitar, Dad was also the guy who threw him out of the family house. With nowhere else to go, Prince wound up living in the basement of a neighbor. The Andersons lived upstairs, and Prince became friends with their son, Andre Simone. This friendship would soon lead to musical fame. Prince and Simone were both into music, and they got a lucky break. Pepe Willie, Prince's cousin's husband, was forming a band called 94 East and had spots for both Prince and Simone. Prince was still in high school, but he was thinking of much bigger things. Upon graduating from Central High School, Prince met a producer named Chris Moon, who was dabbling in music and photography. When Moon heard Prince play bass guitar, piano, and drums all equally well, he knew he had a star on his hands. This partnership was about to explode. Moon had everything Prince needed to learn how to record and produce demo tapes. He also taught Prince something else. He taught him to use wordplay with a double meaning to make his songs sound more naughty. The result of this was their racy-sounding song, Soft and Wet. Moon next worked on Prince's brand. At this time, Prince was still going by Prince Nelson, and Moon didn't want any confusion with country singer Willie Nelson. Prince, still unhappy with his first name, proposed Mr. Nelson, but Moon had a better idea. It was a keep it simple sort of situation, and Moon decided on just Prince. A legend was about to be born. Prince had aligned his rise to fame with Moon, but Moon saw bigger things for Prince, and they went to New York City to find an agent. Moon thought Prince could get famous as the new Stevie Wonder, and even lied about being Wonder's agent to get interviews. This didn't help as none of the agents they visited wanted Prince. They returned to Minneapolis with their tails between their legs. But they didn't stay down for long. Moon arranged to have Prince represented by Owen Husney, and the two were soon off to LA to get Prince's career going. Warner Brothers quickly signed Prince on and arranged for his first album, but Warner Brothers was in for a shock. Prince insisted on writing, producing, arranging, composing, and playing all the instruments. As far as they were concerned, Prince was still young and inexperienced. This had disaster written all over it, but they were in for an even bigger shock. The album Prince made with Warner Brothers was For You, and it, against all odds, received its fair share of accolades. The album was number 21 on the Billboard Soul chart, and the lead single, Remember Soft and Wet, hit the number 20 spot on the Billboard Hot Soul Singles chart. Not bad for a brand new artist. Prince was likely feeling very confident, but his confidence was about to take a punch. Prince hadn't forgot his friend Andre Simone, and together they formed a band. The six-member group performed their first show at the Capri Theater in Minneapolis on January 5, 1979. Executives from Warner Brothers were there to assess Prince's value to them as a pop star. Prince's entire future seemingly rested on their response to the show. The executives at Warner Brothers decided that Prince and his band weren't quite ready. Just 9 months later, Prince proved them wrong. He released Prince, which hit the number 4 spot on the Billboard Top R&B Black Albums chart. On the Billboard 200, it managed a very respectable number 22. Better yet, it also went platinum. But Prince was just getting started. Prince's next album was 1980's Dirty Mind. Prince remembered what Moon had taught him about using double meanings, and he let it rip with the suggestive lyrics. Critics had trouble making sense of Prince. They saw him as shy-mannered, but called his lyrics positively filthy. But it wasn't just the audacious lyrics that made Dirty Mind stand out. The thing was, Prince's Dirty Mind was not just pushing the boundaries of good taste. Prince was fusing new wave and funk, and this combination was intoxicating to a new generation of music lovers. Later, critics called Dirty Mind Prince's coming-of-age album, but despite his success, Prince soon realized that not everyone was a fan. At the beginning of the 1980s, Prince appeared on American Bandstand and Saturday Night Live. He then opened for the Rolling Stones. For his wardrobe, Prince chose a trench coat and black bikini underwear. But Rolling Stone fans were not on board with Prince's androgynous look and started throwing garbage on the stage. Sadly, he had to leave the concert after singing only 3 songs. But Prince didn't let his ordeal slow him down. He was ready for his next step: movies. Sometime in the early 1980s, Prince asked his management team to find him a movie that he could be the star of. Prince's team hired Starsky and Hutch writer William Blinn to draft a screenplay for Prince's movie debut. When Prince received Blinn's screenplay, Dreams, he had only 2 requests. He wanted him to put the word purple in the title and change the entire story. Once they had a script that Prince approved of, the producers had the first meeting for Purple Rain. After the meeting, some executives from Warner Brothers cornered Prince's manager, Robert Cavallo, who was co-producing the film. Their idea was to replace Prince with Saturday Night Fever star John Travolta. There was no way Prince was leaving this film, but someone else was. Prince's first choice for his love interest in Purple Rain was Vanity, of the band he created called Vanity 6. He and Vanity were in a relationship, so it seemed like an obvious choice. But during the pre-production phase of the film, Vanity walked off the set for unknown reasons. Prince was suddenly stuck with no girlfriend and no leading lady. One of the actors Prince tried to hire for the female lead in Purple Rain was Gina Gershon. Prince lured Gershon into making the film with a ride in a purple limo. Gershon, who would later make a very spicy Showgirls and Bound, rejected Prince because she wanted nothing to do with the explicit lovemaking scenes in the script. The search for Prince's leading lady continued. Prince then hired unknown actor Apollonia Cotero, but Prince had a problem. She wasn't single. Prince wanted as many things as possible to be true to life. He wanted the public to believe that she was his real girlfriend. Except she was married to rocker David Lee Roth. To keep his fantasy going, Prince made her keep that a secret, so fans would think they were a real couple. Purple Rain was also true to life when it came to his relationships with his friends. Most of the actors in Purple Rain used their own names as character names. This is because they were more or less playing themselves. In Purple Rain, Prince tells friends and collaborators Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman that nobody cares about your music. Of their 5 recorded albums, unfortunately, none of them would be successful in the US. But Prince certainly knew talent. No wonder he was swimming in it. Sometime during the production, the director asked Prince for a favor. He needed one more song and it had to reflect the theme of Purple Rain. Prince didn't waste any time. The next day, he arrived with a song already produced and recorded. It was When Doves Cry, which went on to be the top-selling single of 1984. Purple Rain went on to be a hit, but it certainly ruffled some feathers. One day, the then vice president's wife, Tipper Gore, heard her 11-year-old daughter listening to a song. When Gore heard the words her daughter was listening to, she got a shock. The song was Prince's Darling Nikki from the Purple Rain soundtrack, and it talked about how Nikki wanted to grind. A shocked Gore was in a position to make this stop. Gore made a pretty drastic move. She got together with Republican Susan Baker and formed a committee. They called themselves the Parents Music Resource Center, PMRC, and they began the practice of warning parents about musical lyrics that were inappropriate for children. Prince may have not been family-friendly, but the Academy loved him. When Prince and Purple Rain took home the Academy Award for Best Score, he set a record. At just 26 years old, he was the youngest ever to win that award. Before that, it had been George Harrison who was 27 when he won for Let It Be. But it wasn't just Prince who'd won for Purple Rain. While Prince obviously scored big with Purple Rain, there was another entity that scored even bigger. Warner Brothers hit a triple with this film. The huge box office was a boon for their film division. Then the soundtrack sales buoyed the record division, and finally, the home video division scored big when Purple Rain went to VHS. Prince also got another interesting perk along with all his big wins, a chance to use his success to get dates. In the late 1980s, Prince began dating one of the hottest stars in Hollywood. This was Kim Basinger, who had just made Batman. Basinger helped Prince out on his EP by contributing spoken word and some very sensual moaning. The word on the street was that her moaning sounds were actually recorded during a real-life intimate session in Prince's bed. But Prince didn't stop at Basinger. There were more Hollywood beauties out there after all. Prince also dated the stunning beauty Tara Lee Patrick, but they did more than date. It was Prince who convinced Patrick to take on the more provocative name of Carmen Electra. Electra later said that Prince inspired her and believed in her. Next, Prince would enter the world of multi-generational dating. Around this same time, Prince began dating the teenage daughter of singer Marvin Gaye. She was 18 years old when they met, and they were together for about 3 years. The next teenager in Prince's life would end up being more than just a girlfriend. Maite Garcia met Prince in a very unusual way. Her mother actually sent Prince's team a video of her 18-year-old daughter dancing. Prince hired her as a backup dancer for his Diamonds and Pearls tour, and by Valentine's Day 1996, they were ready to walk down the aisle. Sadly, this union would end in tragedy. About 8 months after the wedding, Maite was ready to give birth to a son. Sadly, boy Gregory was born with a rare disorder called Pfeiffer syndrome, and he passed only 1 week after the birth. The marriage couldn't survive the loss, and they got an annulment in 1999. But Prince was not through with marriage. Prince actually married one more time. This was to 24-year-old Manuela Testolini, who was working on Prince's charitable foundation. The marriage lasted from 2001 to 2006. Testolini broke Prince's heart and went on to hitch up with Eric Benet, who was Halle Berry's ex. Luckily for him, one thing that helps with a broken heart is oodles and oodles of cash. After he released his Diamonds and Pearls album, Prince decided to continue his contract with Warner Brothers. But this was not an easy renewal of a contract, at least not for the record label. Prince held out for a stunning $100 million contract. For this, Prince promised Warner Brothers 6 more albums. He got right down to work. Prince had already mastered the art of the double entendre. Now he was ready to change the way we looked at language. Back in 1993, Prince had changed his name to a symbol. Some saw it as the height of pretension, but there was another reason. Prince was battling with his record company, and he wanted to infuriate them. Fans and the media simply called him TAFKAP, the artist formerly known as Prince. In 2000, Prince went back to just being Prince, but he wasn't done creating controversy. In 2015, black youth Freddie Gray passed while in the custody of officers. The country called foul and riots ensued. Prince supported the rioters with his song Baltimore and with a special concert at Paisley Park in tribute to Gray. Prince was more than willing to fight for what was important. His greatest fight would be for his life. The first sign that there was trouble with Prince's health was when he postponed 2 shows from his piano and a microphone tour. He gave the excuse of influenza, but we now know he had visited a specialist named Michael T. Schulenberg and had received a prescription. While he was on his private jet, an emergency occurred. While in the air, Prince was suddenly unresponsive. The pilot of Prince's private jet made an emergency landing in Moline, Illinois. When he got to the hospital, doctors immediately saw the problem and started giving him a medication called naloxone. Prince would respond to this in a shocking way. Naloxone is used when someone has taken too much opioids. When Prince came to, he wanted one thing and one thing only: to get out of the hospital. Doctors tried to stop him, but he was intent on leaving. The next day, someone saw him on his bike in his hometown. Maybe he thought everything was going to be okay. Sadly, that wasn't true. On April 20th, 2016, addiction specialist Howard Kornfeld got an unexpected call from Prince's people. Prince needed help. Kornfeld made a plan to see Prince 2 days later and then reached out to a local doctor to arrange for an appointment. The morning of his appointment with the local doctor, Prince found himself in very serious trouble. It was just before 10 a.m. on April 21st that the sheriff's office in Carver City got an emergency call. The caller just said that there was an unconscious person he was dealing with at Prince's home. A few minutes later, the caller admitted that that person suffering was actually the star himself. When the emergency team arrived at Prince's home, they found the pop star in an elevator and completely unresponsive. They made an attempt with CPR, but they were too late. Later, the Midwest Examiner's Office issued a press release stating that his passing was related to fentanyl use. People were left wondering how it ended up in his system. Upon examination, the pills found in his possession were counterfeit versions of a commonly used painkiller. This medication is often prescribed for pain relief, but it appears he was misusing it recreationally. Authorities conducted a search of his home and a nearby Walgreens pharmacy. The more they found, the more heartbreaking the story became. During the search of Prince's home, authorities found pills scattered throughout his premises. But at the end of the investigation, the Carver County attorney stated that there would be no charges filed. The one thing that came out of the investigation was a stunning discovery. Prince had a serious addiction. Even so, someone had to be held accountable for providing Prince with the substances that contributed to this tragedy. The only punishment doled out in regards to Prince's passing landed on Dr. Schulenberg, the man who prescribed Prince opioid painkillers. Schulenberg paid $30,000 in a civil charge that stated that he wrote a prescription for Prince and put it in someone else's name. With that settled, all that was left now was to handle the hefty pile of money the star left behind. As you can imagine, it didn't settle easily. Prince was obviously worth a lot of money, and he had no wives or children to inherit it. The sizable estate had 6 potential heirs, Prince's sister and 5 half-siblings. Seems simple. Nope, it was about to get much more complicated than that. Once the word got out that Prince had never written a will, distant relatives came out of the woodwork. In just 3 weeks, an astonishing 700 people had come forward as distant relatives of Prince. Thankfully, DNA testing determined who the real heirs of his estate were. It was his sister and half-siblings. With that settled, fans could focus on mourning their beloved musical hero. The reaction to the sad loss of Prince was immediate and frenzied. 5 hours after the announcement of his passing, Prince was the term most used on X, then called Twitter, and Facebook. It had over 60 million interactions. Across the country, people held tribute and vigils in his honor and lit bridges and buildings in a lovely purple. But just because his life on Earth had ended, didn't mean his story was over. After his passing, Prince's family uncovered a trove of unreleased music kept safe under wraps at the pop star's home. And while many people still enjoy the classics, they can also continue to enjoy music released years after his untimely demise. They say legends never die, and in this case, it certainly seems Prince's influence never will. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. This video is intended solely for educational purposes. All information presented is for learning and awareness. The content of this video does not endorse or encourage the use of illegal substances, as such use can have harmful effects on your health and well-being. Please make informed, responsible choices.